Well, we've had a general welcome to the course. I think the next thing to do now is just to kind of go over the goals and expectations and some of the learning objectives for what you're going to do when you take this class. So the class is really broken into four distinct parts. So part one is actually short. It's just loading our software and our data so that we can get working together. Part two is going to be a general overview of Python. Now, many of you may want to skip past part two. You may already know some Python and you want to just learn how to use Python within the context of geospatial data. That's fine. It's not going to take a very long time, so you may just want to go through it as a refresher. We're going to just talk about what the Python programming language is, what variables are, how to create lists, how to deal with program control like for loops and so on, and then also conditional formatting, things like if-then statements. So a general way to just get everybody up to speed so that they can perform some basic Python programming. So that's really useful for the beginner, but it still has some utility for those of you who have done some Python programming, because there may be a few things in there that might be something you don't know about. I know for me, every time I look at some Python videos, even if they're basic, it's sometimes I walk away and say, wow, I never knew that before. So you may want to take a look at that. The third part is looking at Python packages. And this is really where a lot of the magic is in Python, is all the many different added parts that you can bring into Python to do all kinds of computing. Now, some of that's geospatial, but a lot of it's not. A lot of it's just database. A lot of it's mathematical. A lot of it's statistical. So I want to go over some of these Python packages because many of them also will eventually integrate with the geospatial aspect of it. In particular, things like connecting to Postgres as a database and having Python talk to Postgres, or even talking to Microsoft tools like Microsoft Excel, and then bringing in some spatial constructs into that. Really cool stuff. And then lastly, and this we're going to spend a lot of time, is looking at geospatial additions to Python. And that's going to include some straight up pure spatial type tools for things like geocoding and other kinds of spatial analysis tasks. But I'm also, and I know it's a free and open source course, we're talking about managing the FOSS4g stack, but I am going to look at ArcPy because I think it's a great language using Python with ArcGIS. A number of you use ArcGIS, so we are going to have a small section where you're going to learn how to use ArcPy and Python within the ESRI ArcGIS package. So when we're done, at the end of this course, what I'm really hoping is that you're going to understand what Python is. You'll be able to talk about it. You'll be able to interact with other Python programmers. You're also going to learn how to use Python to write scripts to automate geographic data. So we have a lot of geographic data we've been working with here using the Tompkins County data, and we've got a lot of different tools like QGIS, like Postgres, like SQLite, a lot of different things. And I want to teach you how to write some basic scripts to automate processes, rather than using the classic push button techniques and the buttons inside of GIS. You're going to see the real benefit of automation. And then I want to also show you how to use Python packages to add additional functionality to your Python code. So this is being able to introduce GIS type tasks that are purely Python in nature and that might not be available within a classic GIS scenario. So we're going to use Python in order to construct some of those solutions. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I hope when you walk away from this, you can then walk into an interview and demonstrate some basic Python proficiency with GIS data, and especially with free and open source GIS, and really nail that interview or that promotion, or just have the skill to begin taking your GIS capabilities a little bit further.